The liger. You've seen a lion. You've seen a tiger. You have never seen the thing that happens when you put a male lion and a female tiger together, because the result is bigger than both of them could prepare you for. And the reason hides in a single instruction that neither parent meant to leave out. A liger is the cub of a lion father and a tiger mother, and it grows into the largest cat alive today, routinely 900 to 1,000 pounds, with some documented near 1,500. A big male lion tops out around 420 pounds. A large Siberian tiger lands near 660. The liger blows past both, an animal heavier than its mother and father leaning together. Here's why. Lions and tigers carry growth genes that normally balance out within their own species, but the lion father hands down signals that push for size, while the tiger mother doesn't pass the matching break a male tiger would. The break is missing, so the body just keeps building. Most people think a liger never stops growing for its whole life. It doesn't. The fast stretch is mostly the first 4 years. Then it matures, and the real cost of that missing break is joint and bone trouble, not endless size. Picture a house cat scaled up to the length of a small car, lounging like it owns the couch. The biggest cat on the planet isn't a species nature designed. It's a clerical error in 2 genomes that forgot to sign the same form. The Savannah cat. This one can legally sleep on your bed and clear the top of your refrigerator from a standing start, because half of its blood is a wild African cat. And there's a reason several states won't let you own the first version, and it has nothing to do with temperament. A first-generation Savannah, what breeders call an F1, is about 50% serval, the long-legged hunter of the African grasslands, and the first few generations of males are almost always sterile. A normal house cat can jump maybe 5 or 6 feet. A Savannah clears 8 feet. Flat-footed, straight up. That's you standing still and hopping onto a single-story rooftop. The serval grew absurdly long legs and a loaded spring to pounce on prey hidden in tall grass. And that hardware doesn't vanish in a hybrid. It just ends up in your living room, attached to a cat that now considers the top of the fridge a low shelf. You didn't adopt a cat. You installed a small grassland predator with a security deposit. The Tigon. Swap which parent is the lion and which is the tiger, and you'd expect the same giant cat. You get the opposite, and almost nobody can guess which way it flips before they hear it. A Tigon is a male tiger crossed with a lioness, the mirror image of the liger, and instead of a record breaker, you get a modest cat of roughly 200 to 500 pounds, usually at or below the size of its own parents. Same 2 species, opposite result. This time, the tiger father passes a growth break, and the lioness passes one too. Both breaks are present, neither size pusher takes over, so the Tigon stays small. The Liger and the Tigon are the same recipe with the growth instructions swapped, which has got to be frustrating for anyone hoping biology is tidy. Same parents, opposite parts, and the only difference between the largest cat alive and a forgettable one was who walked into the enclosure first. If you're enjoying creatures like this, I post new animal deep dives regularly, and subscribing really helps. Thanks. The Leopon. Picture a lion-sized cat that climbs trees and actually likes water. That shouldn't exist because lions avoid both, and yet a Japanese park bred exactly that and documented every bit of it. There's one habit this hybrid inherited that visibly distressed its own lion mother every single time. A Leopon is a male leopard crossed with a lioness, bred at Koshien Hanshin Park in Japan starting in 1959. It came out bigger than a leopard, with a lion's stout build wrapped in a spotted, fuzzier coat, and the hybrids were sterile. Leopards are solitary climbers who are fine in water. Lions are social, ground-bound, and want nothing to do with a lake. The Leopon inherited a blend of both, leopard instincts riding around in a body shaped more like its lion mom, which is why it kept heading up trees she would never climb. A lion-shaped cat halfway up an oak, looking pleased with itself, while the lioness watches from the ground like a parent at a climbing gym. Once again, a body following a rule neither parent agreed on. It spent its life torn between a leopard's urge to be alone and a lion's urge to belong, which is the most relatable thing a 500-pound hybrid has ever done.
The Pumapard.
Most hybrids are a blend of strengths. This one is the rare case where both parents share a hidden weakness, and crossing them doesn't cancel it out. It doubles down on it. These cats are born with a trait that makes them look permanently half-finished, and it traces straight back to something both parents carry quietly. A Pumapard is a cross between a puma, the mountain lion, and a leopard, and it's extremely rare. The offspring often come out with a form of dwarfism, a long body riding on legs that quit early. Imagine a leopard's full torso set on legs that stopped growing partway through, and you land on a predator standing barely half as tall as it should. Pumas and leopards sit on different genetic timelines, and that mismatch in their growth signaling tends to surface as dwarfism. Where the liger lost a break and ballooned, the pumapard gets conflicting orders and just stalls. Somewhere in there, nature took two perfectly good big cats and produced a coffee table with ambitions. It's a leopard's ambition delivered on a house cat's chassis. Two parents, two sets of instructions, and a body caught splitting the difference. That's the whole story of a hybrid in one cub. The Bengal. That sleek, spotted cat in countless living rooms isn't just a fancy tabby. Go back a few generations and there's a real wild forest predator in the family tree. And almost everyone gets the ancestor wrong, because the real one is far smaller and stranger than the name makes you think. The Bengal comes from crossing a domestic cat with the Asian leopard cat, a small wild forest hunter from across Asia. Modern Bengals are several generations removed and fully domestic, but they kept the wild coat and an odd love of water. Despite the name, a Bengal isn't part leopard. The wild ancestor is the Asian leopard cat, a house cat-sized hunter, not the big spotted leopard everyone pictures. The leopard cat handed down the spotted coat genes and a few behavioral quirks, and through generations of breeding back to house cats, the temperament settled down while the wild markings stuck around. Because a coat pattern is easy to keep, and wild aggression gets bred out fast. Which means the scientist's tidy line between wild and tame gets a little blurry in your hallway. You're not living with a tiny leopard. You're living with the great-great-grandchild of a cat most people have never heard of, and it still wants to climb into your shower. The Jaglion. This hybrid is so rare that the two best documented individuals alive might be the only jaglions in the world, and they were never supposed to be born at all. One of the two siblings is a completely different color from the other, and a single gene decided which. A jaglion is a male jaguar crossed with a lioness. Two were born in 2006 at Bear Creek Wildlife Sanctuary in Ontario, Jazara and Tsunami, the result of an accidental mating between a black jaguar and a lioness raised together. Jazara came out melanistic, solid black. Tsunami came out golden and spotted. Same litter, same parents, two completely different cats. Jaguars carry a dominant melanism gene, the one behind black panthers. The father was a black jaguar, so one cub inherited that dominant version and turned out jet black, while the sibling didn't. A single dominant gene is the entire difference between gold and black. So nature flipped one coin twice and got two different animals, which is its idea of a sense of humor. Here, the rule nobody agreed on wasn't even meant to be written. Two cats raised together, one gate left open, and a hybrid the world has maybe two of. An animal this rare exists because two cats who grew up together were left alone for one afternoon. The Chausie. This one looks like a lanky, oversized house cat, right up until it launches itself across the room, because part of its blood is a wild jungle cat. And there's a reason owners describe this breed as more dog than cat, and it comes straight from that wild parent. A Chausie crosses the jungle cat with a domestic cat, usually an Abyssinian. The jungle cat is a genuine wild species, despite a name that sounds made up, and it ranges all the way from Egypt across to Southeast Asia, a wide-roaming wetland hunter. Compress that build into a pet, and the leftover spring still sends a Chausie several feet straight up off a flat floor. It's basically a cat issued a dog's daily energy budget and no refund policy. Breed that tireless hunter into a house line and the body calms down, but the drive to move and climb stays cranked, which is why these cats need far more activity than an ordinary pet. It's a wetland predator stuck in a studio apartment, and it would like you to know it has notes. The wild doesn't stay in the wild as cleanly as we'd like to think. The Serengeti. This cat looks like a small serval, the tall, spotted African hunter. And that's exactly the point. The strange part is there's no serval and no wildcat at all anywhere in its background. Breeders built a wild-looking animal out of entirely tame parts, and almost everyone who meets one guesses its ancestry wrong. The Serengeti was created in 1994 by crossing a Bengal with an Oriental Shorthair. It has the long legs, the big ears, the spotted coat that reads as serval from across a room, and not one drop of serval DNA. Most people assume the Serengeti has to have serval blood. It has none. The serval look is engineered entirely from domestic breeds. The Bengal supplied the spots. The Oriental Shorthair supplied the long legs and the big radar ears, and selective breeding stacked those traits until the silhouette said wild African cat. It's the look of the wild reconstructed from purely house cat pieces, the kind of thing that keeps a geneticist up at night. It's a counterfeit wildcat so convincing that the only thing missing is the wildcat. The Toyger. Somebody set out to build a pocket tiger. The bold stripes, the swagger, the whole look. And they pulled it off without using any tiger at all. And there's a specific reason this breed exists beyond just looking cool, and it ties back to real tigers in the wild. The Toyger was developed in the 1980s by Judy Sugden, who crossed a Bengal with a striped domestic Shorthair, then refined it with a distinctively marked street cat from Kashmir. The result has bold, tiger-like stripes, zero tiger DNA, and a purpose. Sugden partly built it to raise awareness for wild tiger conservation. Every stripe was selected from coat genes domestic cats already carry, then bred toward a tiger pattern over generations. So nature gets no credit here. This was design, not descent. It looks so much like a tiger that people assume it must be part tiger. It carries exactly zero. The resemblance is purely the result of breeding house cats toward a target until the target appeared. Just to recap, it's a tiger you can pick up, a tiger you can name something embarrassing, and a tiger with none of the genetics. Fine, it's a tiger in every way that photographs and no way that matters to a geneticist. The Cheetoh. Every hybrid so far had at least one wild parent, or a wild ancestor somewhere down the line. This last one doesn't, and it's the strangest idea on the whole list. There's a reason this cat looks wilder than breeds that actually carry wild blood, and it has nothing to do with the wild. The Cheetoh was developed in the early 2000s by crossing a Bengal with an Assa cat. The Bengal carries that distant Asian leopard cat ancestry, sure, but the Assa cat has no wild blood at all, and the Cheetoh was bred for a big cat look with a calm, family-friendly temperament. The Assa cat itself was assembled from Abyssinian and Siamese lines, wild in appearance, but domestic right to the core. Stack that on a Bengal, and you get a cat whose wildness is almost entirely a human design choice. Hybrid layered on hybrid until the wild is just a style you can order. A cat that looks like the jungle and descends almost entirely from couches. The Liger broke a rule its parents never meant to write. The Cheetoh is the opposite ending, the one where humans wrote every rule from scratch and then bred a cat to follow it. We started with the biggest cat alive, an accident of 2 genomes, and we ended with a cat that's wild in the eyes and tame in the blood. Proof that somewhere along the way, we stopped discovering hybrids and started designing them. If you made it all the way here, I post new animal deep dives every week, so hit subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.